How many of you remember the mortgage crisis of 2008 to 2010? I know I do. Do you remember making a lot of money back then? No? Well, you might have a second chance. You see, since the crash, there have been a lot of really cheap homes sold for sale. These homes were being sold back in the day for massive discounts, and I personally purchased a couple of these back in 2010, one for $5,000 and another $8,000. People were losing their homes and their jobs, and the economy was a complete wreck. Many of you know this, and you remember that the banks just kept foreclosing and foreclosing and foreclosing, and eventually they had so much inventory that they had foreclosed on that it became what they called shadow inventory. Now, a bank may have loaned a lot of money out on this particular house and then foreclosed on it, but they had to sell it at a fraction of its mortgage loan value, and that really freaked the banks out because they like to get their money back. The more the banks foreclosed, the farther the prices dropped, and their stock prices plummeted, and shareholders were wiped out. Now, the banks had a big problem. They were hoping and praying that borrowers would make up the back payments shortly and start paying again, but we all know that that never happened. Instead, these toxic assets or mortgages started piling up. And the more they piled up, the more problems they caused. So many of these loans went bad that they couldn't foreclose on all of them, or the crash would have gotten even worse. Now, these prices would keep dropping, even on good mortgages that were current, because neighborhood values kept collapsing. The cycle kept continuing. So these notes or IOUs or mortgages were almost completely worthless to the bank, only having value if they got regular payments on time. And the banks, they can't foreclose if there's a lot of foreclosure on their books because they have to keep money in reserves for every single dollar that's being foreclosed on. Now, the banks and government officials were absolutely stuck. And then someone on Wall Street had an idea. Why don't we offer to pay the bank pennies on the dollar for these worthless notes or mortgages? We'll still have the paper, we're still owed that money, but we'll get the banks some money in their pocket. And Wall Street bought millions of these. Millions of these dollars of toxic assets from banks were being purchased by Wall Street. They knew they could hold on to them for a number of years. And now that the economy has picked up, they're worth a whole lot more. So now Wall Street is open for business. Investors are rushing to Wall Street now. Instead of buying REOs off the MLS or bank-owned foreclosures, as we call them, now Wall Street is selling these notes off, and investors get cheap access to deals. So what? What does that mean? Well, here's what it means. You can get nationwide deals for 40 to 50 cents on the dollar. Super cheap. And that just means that partnering with experienced note closers like us, you can JV and split the profits. JV being you can joint venture with us. Or we find houses that have a market value, just for example, $78,000. One recent deal I looked at and I missed because I didn't have the money, I could have bought it for $18,000. It would have been some foreclosure costs, some repairs. But the idea is the more risk we can spread out, the better off we are. And it's kind of like being Pawn Stars. Like going to a yard sale on Wall Street where we can dig through these spreadsheets and find this treasure. Where we can buy the note or the REO, the bank-owned property, and it's just the same. But here's where I need your help. If I buy 4 to 7 of these notes, you can see pretty quickly that the numbers add up, and I'll be stalled for a little while until I sell them off. So I'm getting JV partners to come help this. And I'm wanting to split the profits with somebody who knows what they're doing. That's the 2006, 2007, 2008 that caused this crash. And as we come down the right side of the mountain, down towards 2014, 15, 16, the delinquencies are still pretty high, and so are the foreclosures. But that's okay, because we're buying the notes now. And that's what allows us to talk to the homeowners, because we're now the new bank. So we become the new bank. After we've bought this note, we go to the homeowner and say, hey, let's negotiate. You used to owe $80,000 on your loan, for example. But now your house is worth so much less. So let's make a deal. The homeowner is very happy because now someone from the bank is actually talking to them. And so what we'll do is we'll reduce the mortgage, or maybe the payment, or maybe both. And we'll let them stay if they continue payments again. Now, we as the investor, we buy a highly discounted note. We may pay $25,000 for it, and it may be worth something close to $50,000 or above. We go to the homeowner, we forgive some debt, and they agree to a new value of $50,000. The homeowner understands that he won't be foreclosed on. His payment is lower now, and he owes less than he used to. The homeowner's family is secure. It's a win-win. So what happens if they fail to pay? Well, just like before, the note holder gets a mortgage with that note, allowing to foreclose if a homeowner does not want to work something out or make a fair deal. Instead of the banks foreclosing en masse, now we have the ability to tailor or tune each one of these mortgages. And if we need to, we can sell it at the courthouse steps, just like most mortgages or notes are foreclosed on. So the $25,000 might have bought a note, a mortgage, with all the rights to foreclose. And now this note is secured by a nice house in a nice neighborhood. Our investment is secured by that house, simple as that. So then we get the note and the mortgage, and we figure out what works. Maybe we can recast the payments and make it work for the homeowner. But the end goal is this. We become the bank, and we can strike the terms with whatever we want to do with the homeowner, as long as they agree. So in 6 to 9 months, we've talked to the homeowner. We've figured out that our $25,000 home, we maybe foreclose on it if we have to, or sometimes we work it out. We end up making a nice profit if we have to foreclose, an even better profit if we keep the note working. And at the very worst case scenario, we get a nice rental house for a very small amount of money. So if you'd like to chat or you have questions, give me a call, 844-826-4984. This is Jason Gray from Powerhouse, and I would like to talk to you about how we could work something out. It would benefit both of us.